Good evening to everyone coming in from around this world of ours. It's this great Workspot webinar we've got, and boy, we got a special one for you today because we have special guests, and that is a customer, two of them, here to actually share their case study and their success story. And boy, you know, Andy and Rebecca have been with us for 7, 8 years now using Workspot, and great story it is. And we're going to jump right in. Now, the webinar is only 30 minutes today, and so we really want you guys to, you know, kind of listen up. We'll send you the recording after if you miss anything or want to listen to it again, and ask questions as we're going because we'll take them live as we go. All right. So first off, let's introduce our folks that are on the line today from our customer Mead Hunt, and that is Andy Knauf, the CIO. Andy, welcome.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, Andy Knauf here, CIO at Mead Hunt, 35 plus years in going at Mead Hunt. Glad to join the presentation.
Beautiful. Well, thanks, Andy. Thanks for being a valued customer and joining us today. And of course, Rebecca, you, Civil CAD Manager. Andy's coming out of Wisconsin, Madison area, and Rebecca out of Sacramento in California. I'm in San Jose. So Rebecca, welcome.
Hello, nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us because, you know, later on we've got a live demo that's going to go on, and you are going to share that in all its glory. So we're kind of coming coast to coast here and sharing this great story with you guys today. All right, so let's do this. Let's go pop into the agenda, what we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes. First off, I'm going to pop into just a few slides and show you what Workspot is and does. We might have some new folks here that are unfamiliar, and even some that are familiar. We might have a couple of new twists and turns, okay? So after that, we're going to jump right into the case study, and Andy is going to share his insights into his experiences of before, during, and after the decision to bring in Workspot and how that's changed everything fundamentally. And then, as I said earlier, Rebecca's going to show us a live demo, so it's going to be super duper exciting. All right. Now, remember, if you got questions along the way, you give them to us and we'll handle them in real time. And what I'd also like to do is ask you a few questions. So here's the first one. It's a polling question. If you guys want, just pop in here and select these items that are appropriate for you. And now this is multiple choice. So how would you characterize your VDI and DAS environment? Are you guys doing app virtualization, Windows desktop, Linux desktop virt? Are you looking for an enterprise browser deployment and getting away from virtualization, you know, altogether for the web browser? Or do you have something else going on? Just click that and let us know. All right, so pop in your little votes there and we can tell exactly what's going on in the world day. We've got a nice distribution of desktop virtualization focused primarily Windows and Linux, all right? So let's see now. Let's pop over and take a look at one more quick polling question before we go, and I'll launch that. And that is this: where are these, or where do you want them to be? Where do you want those virtual desktops that you just talked about? Do you want them in a colo or a corporate office? Do you want them in AWS, GCP, Azure, and even Akamai? Workspot can actually launch your desktops in Akamai these days also. It's kind of crazy. All right, so pop into there and go ahead and make your choices, and from that we'll get all the information in. And this is cool. It's a nice distribution. We got a lot of folks that are actually in the data centers and probably thinking about getting out of them, and we got a nice little distribution across the clouds also, and that's good because they're all supported. All right. All righty, so let's do this. Let's close that out here, and now we will continue on. Now, like I said, to kick this off, I really wanted to sort of set the stage for Workspot and what it is and does. And if you have questions, fire away. Okay, now VDI typically historically has been on-prem and it's been very expensive and so forth, and we know it's even getting worse these days. And so Workspot, we can work with you on-prem, but we really have a cloud-based brokering system here, and we can deliver these desktops and apps in any of the clouds that are out there as well, the major clouds. And we also do a lot of focus on making sure there isn't urban sprawl or VM sprawl to keep the costs contained. You're going to see a lot of that, and I'm going to even let Andy talk about how he's taking advantage of that. DEX is this user experience. We do tons of telemetry to tell you in real time and trend analysis exactly what's going on, and even give you an enterprise browser so you don't have to virtualize browsers and make that kind of a diminished experience. We throw AI and machine learning across this whole thing to give you this stack that you see right here. So this is it. Workspot delivers virtual apps and desktops, persistent and non-persistent, across the world in this global cloud service, putting those end virtual machines in any cloud that makes sense for you. Okay, so that's really the nuts and bolts of it. You can see from this diagram with their control capability in the cloud, we manage all this, provision this, and monitor it with Watch and Trends. Watch is real time, and Trends is trend analysis. So it's cranking away, making this work for you day and night, super flexible. All right. We also focus a lot on saving you money. On the left-hand side, when you build VDI on-prem, you have to over-provision it because, the peak load of the day, and oftentimes things aren't being used. So we make sure when you move into the cloud, you can do a pay-as-you-go model and only pay for it while you're using it and save tons of money. And Andy's going to tell you all about that. Our telemetry here is kind of crazy. We do tons of telemetry all the way through the stack from the end user into the gateway, into the desktop and through the cloud, and we can show you all sorts of real-time stats, and even this screen here. And this is a heat map. This shows you, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the hours throughout the day and when the users are using the system. So you can see the heat map is there. Those hours that are not being used, you release all those resources and you're paying for nothing. Huge financial advantage. And that's what we're focused on, basically, making sure, the CFO is happy by, cost containment, as well as the CIO with productivity and security, and then keeping the users very, very happy also is super key, giving them a great experience and knowing exactly through our telemetry what's going on, finding problems before the user finds them, and keeping them happy all day long. Okay? Now, I'm going to hand it over to Andy, but I tell you what, before I do that, I'm going to ask you one more question, and that is this. In your world of VDI, what is the most overwhelming challenges that you see today? Now you can pick two, maybe three of these. This is multiple choice. Is it cost that's overwhelming? Is it complexity, security? Is it observability? Is it end user experience? Pick a couple of these that make the most sense for you. And from that we'll get kind of a flavor of the areas that are most interesting. I got to tell you, years ago when I do the same question, it was like security for sure was the thing that was most on top of line, but I think people know nowadays these products are secure. Everybody focuses on that. And now we're really focused on cost and end user experience, and that is exactly the way the distribution is going here. It's amazing. And that's why you see, our focus essentially is on cost and end user experience right here. The CIO, the CFO cost, and the end user experience. And then Andy can come through and tell you exactly how he also has brought this into Mead Hunt as they've grown their company and dealt with both cost, end user experience, security, and more. So Andy, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brad. Just a little bit of background. I've been with the company, I said before, 35 years. When I started, we were one office and 85 people, and I actually was the first IT person there. And we've had tremendous growth in the last couple of years. We're up to 1,400 people. We're nationwide, and we keep on going up on the ENR top, the top 100 list that's out there. So we're very proud of that. We have a very aggressive strat plan that we just put together. And really, by 2035, we really want to be about $1 billion company. So, double our growth. And we're using these tools like Workspot and other tools that are helping us get to that spot. The next slide, and it shows you more examples of where our growth has been. The airports, food and beverage. We're very proud of that. We keep on climbing those ranks as our design firm size score continues to get better and better every single year. And what we're really proud about is we've even cracked the top 150 of global design firms, so worldwide firms. That was kind of a neat achievement to have as well. And then the next slide just really gives us a history of what Mead Hunt looks like. So we started back in 1900. Our founder, Daniel Mead, started the company here in Madison, Wisconsin, and it really kind of shows the breadth of what we've done. He's very instrumental in some of the larger dam projects in the world. Mead Hunt was one of the contributors to the Hoover Dam. There was 6 primary companies that worked on that, and Daniel Mead and Mead Hunt, were one of those people that really helped do that project. And we've really been happy with where we're going, and then how we're diversifying, the projects that we've done, from starting as just a company that was centered around hydrology to where we're at today. So many different disciplines and so many different areas that Mead Hunt works in. And next slide goes and shows a blueprint of where we are across the United States. We're just in the continental United States, which actually makes it a lot easier to manage the network because you're in the US. And the next slide really gives a blueprint of what our infrastructure looks like. So the next one, Brad, shows where we're at across our region. So we're actually in 5 different Azure regions now. So our workspots are wherever our people are closest to them out there in the United States. So we're in the east, west, north, and south, and then we just added one in the Wyoming area. There's an Azure location that's out there as well. And then we're hosting these workspots out there, and then we use Panzura as our our system where all of our files are kept at. So when people are working in the cloud, they have instant access to the data that's on our servers that are in the cloud, and it's just very, very quick, very efficient for us. Wherever they're at, they can go. If we would add an international office, it's as easy as going into a Microsoft Azure endpoint, internationally. Everything is just very, very seamless for the back user. There really isn't a distinction between working on a desktop or working on Workspot. There is complete transparency, though there's, there isn't that, what do I have to learn different? Everything is really the same. And really this whole thing was, it was kind of the last magic bullet that we were looking for as a company, because we moved all of our data to the cloud, but then we had a problem with people in smaller offices, or when people needed to work remote, they just didn't have the speed, they didn't have the efficiency. So we had everything figured out file-wise, but this was the last thing that we really needed to figure out. In the traditional VDIs, the Citrix of the world and what have you, riverbeds, we had tried just about everything. It just didn't cut it, and it wasn't scalable for us. This is very scalable, very easy to administer, and very easy just to get up and running. So just really a sweet solution overall. And like Brad said, we've been a customer for over 9 years now, and it's really fit in to our whole environment. And like during COVID, I mean, this was our main source when everybody was working from home. Everybody was pretty much on Workspot if they were doing any work. So when the pandemic hit, this was our savior. This was the thing that got us through the pandemic, that we had this in place, and then we just scaled it out so everybody was using it. So we're very happy, and we continue to be happy with this model. And like Brad alluded to, we initially had started out on a 24/7 365 model where we're paying for it all the time, but now we work on a pay-as-you-go model. So our average user, it's less than 4 hours they average. So there's people that are on it 8 hours a day, but there's a lot of people that are on it for an hour or two. They maybe don't have to be in it to do their CAD drawings and whatever. They might be doing meetings, or they might be doing Word or PowerPoint things. So the need to get into Workspot and be in it full time just isn't there. So we've saved tremendous amount of money. There's almost a 45% pay that we recovered back, because we're doing it, we're paying for it as we need it rather than paying for it all the time. So that whole model is just fantastic, and it's so easy to go into, because you're not paying for what you're not using, and nobody wants to pay for what they're not using. That's the biggest complaint. If you're a CIO or an IT director, whatever it might be, you really just would like to, pay for what you use.
Very nice. Well, I'd love to dig into many of the operational things that you've found along the way. But I tell you what, why don't we pop over to Rebecca first and see the live demo, and then we can come back into some of those conversations. So I know Rebecca is here in Sacramento area, so because you guys are spread across the country for sure. And she's a Civil CAD manager. She's been running this forever, so she's really been around for, I think, the full 9 years that we've actually been working together. So she has her environment set up here, and I'll let you go ahead and share. Thanks, Rebecca.
Awesome. So as Brad mentioned, yes, I am one of our Civil CAD managers here. So I've just opened up Workspot here so you can sort of see the client, like if you're going in and actually starting it up from whatever computer is actually in front of you, this is what you would see. And then you can set up things like your settings, things like that. So if you need to have, all of your monitors or just a single use monitor, whatever is working for you at that particular point in time, you set that stuff up and then you basically just double click to go. So this is my desktop. Once I'm logged in, I've just chosen a single monitor, so it's a little bit easier for everyone to be able to see what's going on here. And I've opened up Civil 3D 2024, and basically the user experience is essentially exactly as it would be within a desktop, as Brad and Andy already mentioned there. So I'm in Civil 3D, I've selected a surface, I can right-click on that, go to Object Viewer, and be able to look around and be able to see that just as I would if I was on a desktop, right? No delay, nothing, it's still going to behave the exact same way. All of my interactions on the keyboard, mouse, all of that stuff is exactly the same. So it's really sort of what happens when you're in here. You're just moving around, doing everything that you would normally do.
What region is your desktop running in? Do you know?
The West.
Ah, okay, West. And so you guys are up to 5 regions now, which is amazing. So if you have folks all across the country, I guess you just keep them in proximity or run their cloud, GPU accelerated cloud workstation in closest proximity to where they are. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep. And like everybody pretty much understands that latency is the killer. The longer the latency, the longer it is to ping, across the country, that's what causes the slowness. So when you have high latency, you're going to have poor performance. It doesn't matter how fast your internet speed is, everything relies on latency. So as long as you keep that in mind and you're close to wherever it is that you're working on, you're going to have great results. And like in Rebecca's case, what's nice about this and why it's so scalable is you can fit this into any model that you want. So if you get the one SKU and it's a little bit slow for your users, you can go up to the next SKU. So yes, it costs more money to go up to the next SKU, but it's not like having to order a new laptop and get new equipment out to somebody. You literally can go in and then just get that next SKU, and it costs a little bit more, but then you can say, is it worth it? Is this the speed that I'm comfortable working in, or can I work at the SKU below this? And typically it's just a few cents difference between the different SKUs. It's not a lot. So like our traditional SKU, I think averages about $1 an hour. And if we want to go to a little bit faster one, it might be $1.50 an hour to go to it. So it's not like it's a big jump. You get to decide what's going to work best for you.
Well, that's pretty cool because you can give them more power. And if they only need it for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, you're not really, running the charge up because you're not committing for the month or the year on that size of a system, CPU, GPU, memory, speed, and overall. Okay, and so that's pretty nice because you have different applications that use different resources. Some applications are cranking on the CPU, some on the GPU. And a lot of folks are using big, large design files, and you have folks collaborating. So do you have people like collaborating across the country and they need to share their data? And how are you handling that?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely doing that. I mean, the models that we're working on, we're getting shared across the country. It's not unusual for somebody to be working on something that's coming from 3 different regions. Somebody in the east, somebody in the west. Our model and how we work at Mead Hunt is we really just try to hire the most qualified individual and really put them wherever they need to be at. So if there's somebody we really need and they're in Arkansas and they want to work from their home and we want to hire that individual, we'll hire that person and have them work from home and then contribute to the team. If that works, that's what we'll do. And there might be somebody that Rebecca's working with right now who's in Florida and somebody who's up in Washington, D.C. It doesn't really matter where they're at. they're all saving to that same model. Our model is getting saved in real time across our network, and then anybody who has access to that can just go in and add. So it is really a very nice solution.
And Rebecca, for you, it sounds like you can work from anywhere. Like right now, you're at a lake with a mountain behind you. That's a beautiful place to work.
I wish, but I am definitely working remote today. I wanted to make sure I was showing you guys the real world experience of my typical everyday. Yes, is usually remote, maybe from home, maybe from an airport, maybe another office, wherever it may be. I can log in and do whatever it is that I need to do, be able to support people, work on a project, whatever that happens to be.
Beautiful. So that is the ultimate flexibility. So with that, you could use some sort of device on your end that connects into these monster GPU-related cloud workstations. We'll talk about the device, Andy and Rebecca, that's required, for you to provide to the folks, whether they're at home or traveling. So Andy, what have you figured out there?
So the devices we use are pretty pedestrian devices. We've used as cheap as $400 laptops, and the speed doesn't really matter because it's everything. It's just in the background, just displaying the updates on the screen. So like an HP, a very basic HP laptop. A lot of our designers like 3 screens if it can deliver 3 screens. I mean that's all you really need. We've had just literally just about anything can run it, because everything's done in the background. So that's really not a big deal. For years and years, we took off-lease laptops that had been leased by a company for a year or 2 years like that, and we'd buy those off-lease laptops and then use those because we didn't have to stick a lot of money into it, and they were just fine. And then we would run them for years. It might be 6 or 7 years that you'd be sitting on that $400 laptop before we get rid of it. And typically when we replace out hardware now, it's because maybe it doesn't update to Windows 10, and that's the reason, or it doesn't have something on the security side where we got to upgrade. It's not usually because of speed. That really isn't the factor. It's usually something else as to why we replace the hardware. It has nothing to do with Workspot, which is nice because you don't have that cycle of supplying new equipment to everybody and getting all their programs pushed back out to them, and that whole thing, that extra help that you need in your IT department to be able to produce that. This is all virtual. You can push the updates out virtual, and then everybody gets access to that all at once. It's not like, hey, I got to patch 300 machines. You can just patch them all up in up in Azure, wherever you got it, very quickly.
Well, that's another thing we can share with folks is what you were just saying there, which is patching is super easy, because what happens when you run this new cost model of pay-as-you-go is you actually spin up your desktop and do all your work, and when you're done, it kind of kills it so that you're not paying for those resources until maybe the next day or the next week when you need to spin it up again. So each time you go in there, sort of new that day, it spins up a new desktop. So that image could easily have been updated each and every day. Security updates, operating system updates, application, version updates, and so on. So that makes it pretty cool. So what did you guys find when you went from that model? You went from like monthly and yearly commits to pay as you go, which is essentially hourly. What changed for you?
Well, the cost. I mean, that was the big thing. Nothing else really changed. I mean, it was really the cost. It might take slightly longer to just pop into your pay-as-you-go device than it did when that machine was on 24/7, 365. So there was a little bit of an extra amount of time to pop into that pay-as-you-go device as opposed to the machine that was always on. But the savings, like I said, the savings was probably the big incentive to go to that. You were looking at tens of thousands of dollars for us, and I mean, for us, we saved, I think, close to. I mean, the first year we did it was I don't know, it was close to $750,000. I mean, it was a pretty good delta for us to change. So I mean, it was a kind of a no-brainer to go to that, and I mean, you're continually looking for ways to save money in this industry because software costs keep on going up. There's no relief on that. So you really got to look at what makes sense. Where can you save some money, and that pay-as-you-go model really helped save us big time.
And I know over time, 9 years ago, you had a lot of physical sites. So you had to install, kind of server rooms around the country, and you had Panzura data, management out in those areas and so on. And so you've transitioned to this model here. Now you have 5 regions of these clouds that have Workspot and Panzura tightly coupled together, and that's so fluid. But you started with one region, right? And so talk about the notion of you started with 1 and you went to 5. What were the advantages of going to 2, 3, 4, and then 5 regions?
Well, again, it really amounts to that latency problem. I mean, we started in our one that was closest to us in the Chicago region, and when people were out on the East Coast from Chicago, latency wasn't so bad. But most people know that latency when you go across the Rocky Mountains, that's always a problem. Going across anywhere, across the mountains, that's where latency really breaks down. So if Rebecca would have been hooked up to the North region in Chicago, could she still work? Sure. Would it be jittery or have some degradation? For sure. So you can do it, but it really depends on how many hops it takes to get, back to where we're at. If you know anything about latency, and it's easy to test latency, Azure actually has a tool, and I think AWS has the same. You can go from wherever you're at and just ask it to do a latency test, and it'll go out to all of its servers around the entire world, and it'll tell you the latency from your workstation back to wherever you're going to. And if you have something that's sub 50 milliseconds, not a problem. If you have something that's triple digits, it's probably going to be a little bit of an issue.
Right. So latency is key. And so you were able to pop a region in the West. She's in Sacramento, California. She hits that. And you've got mergers, you got acquisitions that you're doing like down in Florida and various parts of the country. And now that you're set up with 5, you can hire new folks. You can not only do mergers and acquisitions anywhere, but you can also suggest to your employees if they want to move anywhere else in the country, if they have to, maybe if their spouse changes jobs, then they're welcome to. I guess that works now, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's really great on M&A. Like if you wanted to, people could keep their existing equipment, and day one, they could be your company. You can just give them the client, put it on their machine, and then they have access to your network and all of your systems immediately. So M&A is always difficult, like when you're going to make that transition. And sometimes there's a transition where they still need their equipment for a little bit till they trans over to your new equipment. But you can deliver a desktop immediately out to whatever your MA is, and then they can get going, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah, the flexibility there is crazy. Well, Rebecca, thanks for cranking away at that demo there. That was impressive. A lot of times people just want to see it in action and know that the users, sort of across the country are using it that way. That's just it, right? So that's very cool. So thanks a lot, Andy and Rebecca. This has been amazing. I think the story is super clean. You guys have been using it for a long time, and it seems to be getting better and better for you all the time. Essentially, you started with one region and you grew it off to 2, 3, 4, and 5, like you guys can see on the diagram right there. And now you can kind of sit back and just expand the company. Like I know your objectives now are to triple the size of your company in the next several years, and you can really count on this platform for that. All right, so if any folks have any other follow-on questions, I think we handled all of them as we were going there. I kind of feathered them in. So do let me know. You can also go off to our website and you can see our calculators, our cloud calculators. If you want to go in there and figure out various costs yourself, that's there for you as well. And I'll finish up with one last polling question, which is, hopefully you guys had a great experience in this 30 minutes, and we've answered a lot of questions. You might still have more. Let us know how we can best follow up with you. Did you want a one-on-one where we bring you in and tell you exactly how this works in your specific environment? And would you like, to consider the notion of trying it out with a pilot or some additional materials or the recording and various things like that? Okay. So go ahead and let us know what works the best for you, and we will follow up and share that with you. All right. Excellent. Beautiful. Well, once again, thank you, Andy, and thank you, Rebecca. It's been a phenomenal time here today. And the last thing I'd like to share is with the folks is before this, we've actually recorded a podcast before the webinar, which is an hour-long podcast of us going into far greater detail. And it's on our YouTube channel. So not only will I share the recording of this webinar with folks, but I'll share the recording of the podcast also. And you can share it with your business people and your tech folks as well, and they will love it because we go into, Andy and Rebecca go into so much greater detail with the more time that we have in the podcast. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Andy, and thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Brad.
Pleasure.
Wonderful. All right. Well, look forward to that recording coming your way, and then we will see you all very soon in the next webinar as we do on each and every month. So take care, everyone, and bye for now.